future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Hi, and welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. Well, as you know, every week we have incredible women, and I just want to mention that next week we're going to have Catherine Curry-Williams, who started Shane's Inspiration, as well as Wine, Women, and Chocolate. You will not want to miss her, as well as Lisa Garr, who is an author and a radio host of a program called The Aware Show. So if you don't want to miss any of these, feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us. You'll get them automatically, or you can follow us on Live, Love, Thrive on your iTunes or your iHeartRadio. So today we have the CEO of Outward Media. Her name is Paula Chiocchi, and we can't wait to talk to her later in the show. But first up, we have the author of Girl in Traffic. Please give a warm welcome to Mamta Valderrama. Hi, Mamta. How are you?
Hi. Thank you for having me.
You bet. You bet. So happy to finally meet you in person.
Likewise.
Yeah, we have had such interesting conversations over the phone, and your story is just amazing. And I want to get to how and why you wrote this book about the organ trafficking, because I think it's something so important to educate our audience on.
I agree.
And where it's headed and how we can stop it and what it is. You know, some people might not even be aware of medical tourism and organ trafficking, but we're going to tell them about it. But first, I want to talk about what an extraordinary path for you as a young lady coming from parents that were directly from India, and their cultural practices and how that affected your life. So your parents moved here from India, like you said, so many typical stories with like $20 in their pocket, right? But your dad was actually one of the first employees of the FedEx Corporation, right?
Right. He was an early employee of Federal Express. But when my parents immigrated here in the mid-'70s, they came as graduate students. They landed in Florida. They're Florida Gators.
Yeah, that's right. That's what we have in common. Go Gators.
Go Gators.
I'm a Florida Gator.
So they came here to do graduate studies, and from there, my dad did lots of different types of jobs, just trying to make ends meet.
Sure.
And
that's usually how it starts out. I mean, when you're an immigrant, you don't, you speak the language so well, and you don't have any contacts. Of course, you take job to job. But then he was fortunate enough to land this position.
Yeah.
Huh?
So my dad is an engineer, and through lots of different channels and avenues, ended up in Memphis, Tennessee, where Federal Express is based.
Right.
And
that must have really been odd, being Indian background, being in Tennessee.
I ended up moving to Southern California when I was 4, so I don't remember Tennessee very much.
I see. Okay.
But my older brother definitely has memories and stories of being a misfit.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, even today that might be tough, so I can't even imagine back then.
So I had the fortune of going back a couple years ago, and it's a great little Indian community there. My parents are still connected to their friends, and
I would never have known that. So there's an Indian community in Tennessee, in what city?
So in Memphis.
And I've been to Memphis.
Yeah,
and I was not aware of that. Yeah. I went there to, see, where Martin Luther King spent his last days and stuff. And, great barbecue. Right?
Yes, that's what I've heard. We're vegetarian.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So my dad
Great baked beans.
Correct. My dad was an early employee of FedEx and then ended up getting recruited by a competitor to FedEx, which was based in Newport Beach.
Oh, and that's what brought you out here?
That's what brought us out here and how we ended up being in Southern California.
Oh, how fortunate, right?
Yes.
Yeah. As much as we love Tennessee.
Yes.
Yeah. California
I'm very proud
rocks.
Californian.
Oh, yeah. So what you and I talked about was fascinating, was that They brought their culture with them, of course, as many immigrants do. But their culture is so different from the U.S. culture in that your parents had an arranged marriage.
Correct.
6 months later, they ended up here in the U.S. They hardly knew each other, right? And they wanted to carry on that tradition with you and your siblings.
Absolutely.
And so this was what you and I were talking about, that your sister and your brother kind of followed suit, yes?
So we all grew up pretty traditional.
Yeah.
And in many respects, even I am as well. I've maintained my vegetarian diet. I'm very involved in my spirituality. A lot of my friends come from an Indian background.
Right.
But where I differ is I ended up not pursuing an Indian marriage.
Right.
So
which was that something that they really wanted. You had to marry someone with a certain last name, you were
Right.
telling me. And,
Right. So my parents
Yeah.
made a list of all the acceptable last names that
my.
I could consider when I went off to college, and never followed that. I think.
So they weren't necessarily saying, yeah, it has to be arranged, but we want you to marry an Indian guy.
Right.
So they were kind of being a little flexible.
So it was like
yeah.
the new hybrid model of immigrants in the United
Right.
States, and that was my experience. That was very common amongst my friends.
Right.
That was the model that we were told was acceptable.
And it's interesting because you shared this with me, and we'll just touch on it, that, they were wanting to perpetuate the arranged marriage, even though it really wasn't the perfect match for them, right?
Right.
Yeah,
So,
I mean...
so it wasn't rooted in love or some kind of
Right.
emotional connection.
Yes.
And for arranged marriages, for a lot of couples, that comes later. They grow into that.
Yes.
And that is the reverse of how it's done in the American system.
Right.
And so growing up in the United States, it was a lot of times very confusing.
Yes.
Because at home we're seeing one model, and in the media, at school, socially, we're seeing something else.
Right.
And
Totally
so,
different culture.
And so trying to bridge that, or kind of trying to figure out where I fit in,
Right.
it was a challenge.
Especially as a rebel.
Right. I've always been a little bit more of the black sheep in my family, like
yeah.
we talked about.
I told you, they say the black sheep is the best one. Just saying.
I hope so.
I would know. So your sister and your brother both, they did an arranged marriage, or they married in the Indian culture?
So they both married in the Indian culture.
Oh, but not arranged.
My brother had, I guess, semi-arranged. So he met his wife through the avenue of meeting a lot. He was introduced to a lot of women that matched the traditional model. So meaning she was a similar background.
Right.
And that
This
was
isn't an online dating app, is it?
no, it's not. It should be.
I didn't know
guess.
if it was you should start something, right? The Indian marriage app.
Yeah, there might already be something like that. I don't know. So my brother found his wife through a more traditional model, but he and she both chose each other. So they did have a choice, a little bit more of a
Right.
choice than they did in the generation prior.
So they actually felt a connection.
They feel a
and-
connection,
yeah.
and they're very much in love. They
Oh,
have
that's
two beautiful
nice.
boys, my nephews, and have a wonderful relationship.
And your sister, she, it wasn't arranged, but she married an Indian gentleman.
She married a wonderful Indian gentleman,
Yeah.
and they did fall in love. They have also a very loving relationship. In fact, sometimes I think I love my brother-in-law more than my sister. So I guess on paper,
Better
if
hope
you-
she's not watching.
if you looked at them, my brother and sister on paper, you might think they're much more traditional, and my husband is not Indian.
Right. You told me he walked into a room and you went, uh-oh.
Yeah, that was honestly my first reaction, because I thought that man is definitely not Indian and vegetarian, and this is going to be a tough road ahead for me.
Right, because
But-
it was such an attraction.
Yeah, but it was the right one.
Right.
And
So you said he's an American boy?
He is.
And he's Mexican descent?
he also has some Mexican and Filipino.
And
as
Filipino,
well.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
but
our daughter is like the United Nations.
the cool
basically.
thing is your parents fell in love with him.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
They love
Yeah.
him so much, and his family has really embraced me, and they just see a lot of love, and I think that's ultimately what parents want for their children.
Well, isn't this nice, though, that it does take the black sheep to kind of break down the barriers of let's reach across and we're all people and we're all one, we're all one in this world. And so it really takes someone like you to step out of that box to break that barrier and have them see that and embrace that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And, my husband and I traveled back to India where I still have a lot of relatives. It was really important to me that he got to meet my extended family. And, they were nervous initially. They had never had an American in their home or stay in their home.
Right.
And they weren't sure if he would be comfortable, if he would feel like it was dirty, or they just didn't know what he was, or he would complain about the food.
It's like any mixed marriage or gay marriage, or people are always nervous about meeting the family.
Yes, exactly.
If it's something out of the norm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But honestly, they also, I think, left, gosh, he's so much better than her. So, so they really.
I doubt that.
They really loved him, and he really loved them.
Yeah.
And he just can't wait to get back there.
Oh, that's so nice. He sounds like a wonderful man.
Thank you. I'm very lucky.
It is so nice that your parents accepted that they just wanted their child to be happy, which is what I think all parents need to do.
Absolutely.
And that they gave him a chance, and that they embraced him. I mean, obviously he's a good guy. Yeah.
He is.
Isn't it all about, is your child with somebody who is a good person, who loves your daughter or son? I mean, isn't that the most important thing? I think so.
Absolutely.
And
now that I'm a parent, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Wanting that from she's very young, but
Yeah.
just wanting that for her too.
Yeah, it's strange how some people are just so set in their ways. They want it to be this kind of person, even if that person wasn't a good person. It's like, no.
Absolutely.
It should be about love. Marriage should be about love.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So that journey it took you to the next part, which is your book, which being from here and India, you travel back and forth between the two a lot. And tell me about this journey of, you went to school and you wrote a thesis about, you wanted to start a business called medical tourism. So let's first start with, was that USC Business School,
Correct.
right? Okay, so let's tell people what medical tourism is and about the business you had wanted to start when you initially started this journey.
Sure.
Yeah.
So medical tourism is when Americans travel to foreign countries for medical procedures that they can't afford in the United States.
Right. Like kidney transplant, knee replacement.
Correct.
Various things, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people do this because they can't afford it here, right?
Correct.
Which isn't that too sad. Like, if it can be affordable there, it should be affordable here.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But
I figured you would.
There's a lot of issues with our healthcare system, as a lot of us know.
No, really? I didn't know this. No, I'm just
But
kidding.
in the world today with medical tourism, most of the procedures that are taking place are elective procedures. These are plastics, augmentation, enhancement.
Right.
And I was coming from a much more mission-driven perspective.
Right.
I wanted to help Americans that needed medically necessary procedures.
Right.
So my goal was to graduate and be the broker. I was going to match the American in need with the world-class hospital and the world-class surgeon abroad.
And you felt that you could do that knowing so much about India. Like an average citizen probably wouldn't know that much about that particular country.
Right.
So you're thinking, oh, perfect broker.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I thought that with the Americans, there would be some comfort seeing somebody like me who sounded like them but looked Indian.
Yeah.
To be able to say, hey, you need to get on this plane and travel halfway around the world to get this procedure. But, I could come to them with hopefully bring some comfort and
Right.
some ease around a very difficult decision.
Right. So it was a good-hearted mission.
Yeah, it was coming from a good place, but during the course of the research that I was doing for this business plan, I kept coming upon stories about organ trafficking, and it seemed like every third story was about an episode of this that happened in India. So my heart was literally breaking.
Right. And let's tell people what organ trafficking is.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So organ trafficking is when poor people are preyed upon to either sell or directly have their kidneys stolen and sold on the black market to Westerners who need life-saving kidney transplants.
Right. But people that can afford it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I'll give you some numbers.
Yeah.
A poor person can be promised up to $5,000 to sell their kidney. People are buying them for upwards of $100,000.
Oh my gosh.
There are about
Wow.
10,000 documented cases of organ trafficking every single year.
Oh my gosh.
And those are the
and
only
the awful
documented
thing
ones.
is, not only do the poor people, like $5,000 probably is like a lifetime of savings for them.
Correct.
But sometimes they don't get anything. Sometimes it's stolen from them, which is like really eerie to even discuss.
They many times never see the money, or they see a fraction of it. But more importantly, they get these back alley botched surgeries.
Oh my God.
So they're sent back to their village many times just really haphazardly sewn up. And somebody who maybe was able to work now is left suddenly even more destitute because they don't even have their health.
Wow. This is so sad.
It's very heart-wrenching, and I feel like it was important to me to tell this story because I felt like there wasn't enough awareness about this issue.
Well, when you started down this road to create this business, you were not aware that this was a common practice.
Correct.
Yeah.
I was not aware.
You must have just been, your mouth must just, you must have just been in awe of like,
I was devastated
yeah.
that how could humans do this to each other.
Right.
And fast forward to post-graduation from USC, and by coincidence, I ended up working in the kidney industry in the United States.
Right. For one of the largest companies, right?
Right, a very large kidney company. And in my time there, you know, they do really great work for patients. They take care of a lot of patients and give them medically necessary procedures to save their lives.
This is mostly people that are on like dialysis?
Correct.
Right. So their kidneys aren't functioning properly, and this company helps them.
They provide the dialysis.
Dialysis,
Right, and that's what keeps the patients alive. And they're doing tremendous work.
Yeah.
Yet I didn't find anyone who was talking about this issue of organ trafficking.
Right.
And I realized that I was in a very unique position, having now worked in the American kidney industry with my background in India, having traveled there, having visited slums myself, having visited remote villages with very poor people,
Right.
that I had really both sides of this story to share.
Yes.
Because the Westerners that are buying these kidneys are not bad people. This is not
They don't even know, right?
Well, I think there's no way to not know.
Okay.
They have to know.
Right.
But my point is that these people are desperate to live.
Right.
And when you're desperate for survival, the things that humans will go through or consider doing
Right.
in the chance to see their daughter walk down the aisle.
I see.
You know, these are good people, but they're faced with really desperate circumstances.
Right.
So in the book, I really try to point out both sides of this issue and explore that gray matter. Now, I'm not condoning organ trafficking.
Right.
But the questions that it does raise are, is there a place in our society for a regulated legal market for somebody who's willing to sell their organ and somebody who's willing to buy it?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think most of us
I guess
don't.
it is up to a person if they would want to do that, but then I feel like it takes advantage of people that are in a poverty situation.
It's very...
You know, I feel like someone might sell it for their drug habit or something, and that would be sad. And how do you correlate or coordinate between the two? You know, how do you, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
that's a dilemma.
So it's a dilemma.
It feels wrong.
And that's what I want my readers to think about when they read my book.
Right.
That's what I want them to consider.
So you give both sides of the story.
I really try to provide a balanced perspective, not good versus bad. You know, America is bad, India is good, or vice versa. This is not so didactic. This is really to get my readers to ask themselves these important questions.
Right. It's kind of like, you know, should people be able to take their life if they're terminally ill? I mean, it's that kind of a question, like we don't know.
Exactly.
Different people have different moral values about that.
And then
so
also
what's right and what's wrong.
And what precedent are we setting? What do we open the door to that we can't foresee?
Right, right.
So the book is fiction based on a decade of true stories.
Oh, I see.
So it's written as a thriller, and it's great beach reading.
Right.
It's written to appeal to the masses, and that was intentional on my part versus writing nonfiction, because I really wanted this to be something that everyone who likes to read would consider picking up.
That seems like a smart choice. Yeah,
Thank you.
and it's called A Girl in Traffic with a K.
Correct.
Yeah.
With a CK.
With a
Girl in
CK.
Traffic, CK.
Yeah.
Yes. I didn't want people to think I was talking about a girl stuck on the 405 freeway.
Or we won't even go down the other path. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it absolutely is about organ trafficking because, let's face it, human trafficking is a whole nother sad story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I really want to expand the definition of human trafficking, because organ trafficking is definitely a type of human trafficking.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Today when we talk about human trafficking, that's correlated with sex trafficking. We're synonymous with sex trafficking.
Especially if they're taking the organs and not paying the people. I mean, that's even,
Exactly.
I mean, that's as low as it goes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
so
just
I think
hideous.
I think it's important to expand that definition in people's minds to include organ trafficking.
I think you're right. That's a good thing for us to educate people on today. And one of the cool things you told me is that it looks like you know of an entity that is creating artificial kidneys. And so this could put an end to this. By the year 2020, you were telling me, who is it that's developing that?
Yeah, so a group of engineers out of UC San Francisco, led by Dr. Shuvo Roy, who's now become a very good friend of mine. His team is developing the world's first artificial kidney. And I think that I sent your team a picture of the little gadget, if you want to show that. It could essentially eradicate or significantly put a dent in the world of organ trafficking. If there was no demand, then there wouldn't be the supply. This is an economics issue.
Right.
And so if we can put a dent in the demand that's needed for trafficked organs with an artificial kidney, then there is potential over time to significantly diminish the amount of trafficked organs that are taken.
That makes sense. My only concern would be if we create that here in the United States, will they charge so much for the artificial that it doesn't even make a difference in the trafficking? That's an issue, isn't it?
It is an issue, and so lots to still be determined.
Right.
But I think the first step is knowing that there is a team focused on this, and they're getting. So far, their testing has gone very well. They're continuing to plug along.
That's very positive.
It's very positive.
Yeah, and that people that could afford it would go this route as opposed to the other route that they know isn't right.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the pricing around it might look like, or how
right.
insurance will embrace it, et cetera. So there is a lot of hope. And that is important for readers to take away.
Yes.
Instead of just hearing organ trafficking, this is so depressing.
Right. There's a possible solution.
There's a possible solution. And in the interim, if my book can motivate one person to consider donating their organs, when you, at least in California, when you sign up for a driver's license, and many other states, they ask if you want to be an organ donor.
Could we solve this problem if everyone in the United States donated their organs? And this is, you mean when you pass away?
It can be a living donor or when you're deceased.
All right.
So we're born with 2 kidneys.
Right.
Most people only need 1 to survive, or to live, I should say.
Right.
Live a healthy life. But there are risks to donating, so I don't want to diminish that. It's just perfectly efficacious to go out and donate your kidney.
Right.
It's a case-by-case situation.
Can you donate it when you pass away? Is it still useful, or?
There are a lot of yes, but you have to identify yourself as a registered donor for the organs to make it to a team in time.
Right.
So the lifespan of them is very short.
Right, but it is possible.
It is possible.
Oh, I think that's great for people to understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One thing I love that you told me that I think will inspire our listeners is that you quit your high-paying job to go and spend a year writing this book, right?
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of people out there saying that they have a book in them, and I think it was very courageous and bold of you to do that. But look how great it's turned out. It's something now that you're it's a legacy. You're helping change the world and make it a better place.
Thank you.
And doing shows like this to let people know about it. If you hadn't written this book, a lot of people wouldn't know about it. So it was bold for you to do that. And maybe you could share with people how that felt and how you did that. And
Sure. So, like many people, stuck in corporate jobs and trying to find ourselves and where do we fit in. And growing up, there were a lot of expectations placed on me about what I should be doing, how I should be doing it, what I should be earning, what my title should be. And I just never fit quite accurately into those boxes.
Right.
And it was kind of at the peak of my misery in corporate America that I just said, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
And I had already had the idea for the book, but really no time or energy to focus on it because I was just so unhappy.
And I think there's one or two people at least out there that are totally resonating with this story.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And well, I hope you're not miserable, but I hope you can resonate with my story.
Hey, sometimes being miserable is a good thing because it pushes you in a new direction. Yeah.
And that was true for me.
Yeah.
And, very thankfully, I had the support of my husband who said, you have this incredible story. Just quit your job and just focus on this.
I had somebody over the weekend. I was at a retreat, and she said that she did this with her husband. She knew he was a fantastic writer, and she said, hey, I want you to take the time off to do this, stop bartending or whatever he was doing. I'll support us and while you do this. And he's like, no, I couldn't do that. And he did. And now he's a famous writer.
Wow.
And so we do need to get behind our partners and our loved ones and let them do what their gifts are.
Absolutely.
To let them fly. And then it benefits both. So
Absolutely.
that's a good message for us to put out there, right?
I agree with you
Yeah.
100%. And that was exactly my situation. Continues to be.
Wonderful.
So I took 3 years to write the book with this.
Now I really like him.
Yes, he's so wonderful, and it's been wonderful. It's been such an incredible journey, and it almost was a calling. I didn't have a choice but to write this book.
Right. So many people say that do something like write a song or write a book or write a play or a screenplay or whatever. They just say, I didn't have a choice. This was in me. And that's how people should tap into their gifts. If it's something inside of you that is so strong like that, that you say, I just don't have a choice, then it's why you're here on the earth.
Absolutely.
So thank you for this work that you've done and your book, and I hope people pick it up and read it at the beach, as you suggested.
Thank you.
A Girl in Traffic. It's a wonderful way to educate oneself, but I just think it's something people should not only read themselves, but share with other people because we want that information out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, we'll see you soon, and we will be right back with Paula Chiocchi.
The Live, Love, Thrive radio show is produced by 360karma.com. Are you a 360 Karma woman? If so, spread the word. Be sure to follow us on social media at 360 Karma Women on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please like us and share us with family and friends. This is the year of the woman, and we are stronger together. The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women.
Hi there. I couldn't hear it, but we're back. Surprise, we're back with Paula Chiocchi. Hopefully I said your name right. I'm probably close, but not
close.
quite.
It's
Yeah.
Chiocchi.
Chiocchi.
Yeah.
Okay, Chiocchi. I hope you don't ever do karaoke. We'd have
No,
a
I
heck of a
don't.
time saying
People would
Chiocchi's doing
people would leave
karaoke.
the room if I did that.
Oh my. So we are back with the CEO of Outward Media. I'm so happy to have you here today,
you.
Paula. I'm just going to call you
That's it.
Paula.
That's
Let's
good.
just keep it simple.
I'm excited to be here. I love what you're doing to empower
Oh,
women.
thank you. Thank you. You know what? All of us, all of the women business owners are empowering other women because we're empowering them to be business owners, But I know you were born in Ohio.
That's
Ohio.
correct,
Okay.
yes.
We won't hold it against
No,
you.
I know. I won't hold it against my parents.
But so you ended up here in LA in the 80s?
Yes,
Okay.
late
So when you were like 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just keep it at that. But so tell me about your journey because I know your parents moved around a lot, right? Or-
Yes.
Yeah.
My dad was in the
I
Air
remember
Force.
that. Yeah.
So we did move around a lot, and part of that moving caused you to uproot, go to a new city, meet new people, and kind of start over again, which was a little hard as a child, but
Right.
then as an adult, I think it helps you be more flexible in
Yeah.
making right turns, left turns, or whichever way you need to go.
It's so interesting because I read an article once that most people, and I could have sworn it said like 80%, stay in the hometown they were born in, never move. And yet I have so many people on my show that have this story of as a child they moved all over the place and how hard it was to readjust and meet new friends and resiliency. And I guess most of them are military families. Not all of them
Not
have
all.
been, but
I think
yeah.
maybe it's a function of where we live. You know, we're in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
People
maybe.
migrate here, and
That could
I
be.
think if you more in the rural areas, they don't leave.
maybe not. Yeah, like if we're in the Midwest,
Yeah.
they probably stay put. And,
Yeah, that's what I think.
Texas and things like that. Yeah, I think maybe you're right.
I might be wrong, but-
Maybe that's it. Hey, you're a smart woman. I think you just figured it out. So no wonder I have so many people on this show. But but the good thing is that gave you a resiliency,
Yes,
right?
big
And
time.
it must be great in business today to have accumulated those skills as a child, really, to be able to just walk in
Yes.
and meet people and make friends and
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember, or did you have one of those clowns growing up that you could hit it and it would hit the floor and bounce back up?
Yeah, I
That's
don't
what-
know if I had one, but I've
we
seen
did.
them.
We
Yeah.
were a family of 6.
Yeah.
And I felt like the clown a lot of the time. You hit it, knock up, I keep getting back up. I
Right,
keep getting
right.
back up.
Well, they say it's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get up. I'm a big advocate
Yeah,
of that.
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that
So
saying.
resilience is very important, I think,
Yeah.
to be a business owner.
So then progress into your life. Like, I want to know the journey to how you became the CEO of Outward Media, which is an extremely successful marketing company.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about what you do and how you help grow businesses because it's very important. But you really started in a very male-oriented industry in a
Yes.
time that sexual harassment was like okay and prejudice of women
Yeah.
was okay and nobody paid any mind to it and swept it under the carpet. And I know you were telling me about this journey, so let's share that with our listeners who either identify with that or aren't aware of it. I can imagine most of them identify with it, having been around our age.
Well, I ended up right out of college in corporate America in
Mm-hmm.
Fortune 1000 land, I call it, and probably spent about 11 years there.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sales-oriented environment. And definitely the prejudices were there in terms of the women weren't treated as well as the men. And certainly I wasn't. And I had
Mm-hmm. And
moved,
paid less.
paid
and,
less,
yeah.
given less opportunity
Right.
in the environment to sell more and make more.
I remember you telling me that one got an advancement and they told you because he had a wife and kids.
Yeah. And
Yeah, they
they
used-
needed
that-
the money more than I did.
Right, and that used to be like the norm back then.
Yeah.
People would literally say that.
Yes.
Like,
And there was-
oh, well,
there
he's
was
a
no-
man and
yes.
he has a wife and kids,
Yes.
and so therefore that's why he got the raise and you didn't. Like
Yeah.
that was normal. Yeah.
Well, I think
I mean,
maybe...
can you imagine someone saying that
No,
today? Oh my
no.
gosh.
Well, and I think too it was also
Even though it's, you know what? It's done but not said today.
yeah, it's probably behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Give it to him, not her.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's-
And then that to me was wrong. And I thought, my father raised me to be independent, more so than my mother. But
Yeah.
he raised me to be independent and do what I wanted to do, speak up, don't
Yeah.
take a back seat.
Yeah, you had an unusual father from my conversation.
Considering I'm a
with you.
baby boomer.
Yeah. But for him to like really be in your court and say you
Yes.
can do anything you
Yes.
want, and I mean that had to really impact the fact that you didn't see the barriers and you went for
You're
it.
right.
I
didn't think I had the
Kudos to
barriers.
him.
And,
he was progressive.
Because, baby boomers, we were kind of taught to go to school and get the MRS degree, right?
Now, yeah, right, exactly. But even though he was in your court and he was like a woman advocate, but he was like the typical guy. You were telling me that marriage kind of a runaround and typical guy, right?
I don't really know.
Oh, you don't know.
Because he was
Okay.
a pilot, so he was gone all the time.
Oh,
Could
right,
be.
right,
I
right.
don't know.
We'll just
My mom will
speculate.
swear no.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think being taught that I could be the best at anything I wanted to be, but just do it. Get up every day, look yourself in the
Right.
mirror, and say, "I'm done the best I did today."
You know what? I hope our culture really gets behind women, or not women, children. I hope it starts this whole women's revolution that we see going on right now, and the feminist movement that includes the men. You saw that women's march. It was more than it was like at least half men, because they really are wanting to get behind their daughters, their sisters, their wives. Their
Finally.
friends. Yeah, finally, right. And it's really cool that they're doing that. And it's nice to see that, because your father was actually obviously one of those men back then, but now you see more of it. It's more prevalent.
I see that with friends I have that have children. They're definitely raising their daughter different than the average family back when I was growing up. But
Right.
But it is important. It does start in the home.
And then I hear a lot too about people are, and I say our age because we're like midlife, that you know, they grew up where the mother gave up their career to be a caretaker, much like your mom, right?
And she took off about 20 years.
Right, and so that generation looks at those women. My mom actually was a partner in my dad's business, so she actually was very prevalent in his business, and he wouldn't be who he was without my mom. But I know it's a rare story that most of the time the women took off, raised the kids, which is one of the most important jobs. Sure. But then at the end, we saw all these women getting left in their midlife, with the husband taking all the money he'd earned and leaving them high and dry. And we all witnessed that. Yes. And so it changed the culture tremendously by that big divorce thing that went on in the baby boomers' parents. And women realizing, wait a minute, I don't want that to be me. So that was actually a good cultural change that came out of that.
And I had that experience
avalanche.
Because my dad died when I was 21, and my mom didn't know what to do.
Right.
She didn't know anything about the finances. She didn't know where he wasn't hiding money or anything, but she just didn't have the bank account. She didn't know, and I thought, I am not going to be like that.
Right.
I'm going to take charge of my life and make sure whatever happens to me that I know where everything is and how to do everything. And then when I got divorced, you know, I was the one who managed the divorce and made sure I got, you know, my share, and even though it's an ugly thing to go through.
Right,
but, But yeah, I think, because that being married for 100 years or whatever and then dying, this doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Some people, I'm sure you know, people have been on their third marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So
did you marry someone similar to your dad that you lost at a young age?
I think more similar to him than my mother, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would think if you lost your dad at a young age, and a lot of people probably listening probably relate to this, because a lot of them have lost parents at a young age. It's kind of a common thing. Yeah, it is very hard. I can't imagine. You must have been devastated.
For about a year. Easily was depressed for over a year.
Yeah.
But I always think to myself, well, you know, he sees how well I'm doing. He's, you know,
I look at it that way too. Yeah, I've lost both of my parents, but I do feel they're here with me, and I'm very grateful for them. And I do feel like sort of like they can do more for you where they're at than they could even here. You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
You know.
It does.
It does,
sense.
right?
Yeah.
But yeah, a loss at a young age is a traumatic thing. But I always look at how people use the obstacles that they had to overcome. And so you used them for the good. You lost your dad at a young age. You went through your tough divorce. But those things, just like the traveling, made you resilient and stronger than ever to become this very successful businesswoman in an arena that, like most industries, is very male-dominated.
Very competitive.
Right. So you finally decided, the heck with this corporate America that's being prejudiced toward men, I'll go start my own, right? Yeah,
well,
so tell me that story.
Actually, I had 2 detours before I did that. I went into real estate sales, and then I also was a stockbroker for a while, but I didn't feel like I was building anything. I felt like it was a transactional business, and I wanted to build something from the ground up. Right. So I literally started at my dining room table and
you know, the best businesses are started at the dining room table, because
HP was started at the dining room table.
Yeah, because people have no overhead, and it really does make perfect sense. Most of the people I've seen that are really successful did start without an office, without a staff. You know, it's really great advice.
And build it.
Yeah.
Build it. And back to what you said earlier, it does take a lot of resilience and drive. You have to have the drive. You have to have the fire in the belly.
Being an entrepreneur is not easy. It's one of the most exciting, but one of the hardest things anyone will ever do. And anyone who is an entrepreneur knows exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
And aspiring entrepreneurs, because one of the things I like to do as well is talk to younger women that are looking to go into business.
Right.
Be a connector for them, so they can meet other people, so they can have less hurdles to jump over than, say, I had, because they're being connected faster.
You are an awesome connector. Yeah, I know you've already connected me to some amazing women, and it's wonderful when that's a gift. It's something I enjoy doing too. I find there's a lot of joy in connecting people. It doesn't cost anything.
No.
I don't know why more people don't do it. It's so easy. I
is
know this
easy.
person, they could use the help of that person. Why not put them together? I want to perpetuate that through my platform and show. And
Well, Matma,
Mamta.
and I just Mamta,
Yeah.
and I just had the discussion before you had her on, because you had a previous guest, Deborah Shames,
Yes.
written a book.
Yes.
And I'm going to connect the two of them for her to talk to her about how she marketed her book.
oh, fantastic.
So
Yeah, it's so easy, isn't it?
It is.
And it brings you a lot of joy.
It
You
does
know,
for me.
Yeah, for me too. I think even more joy than the people you actually connect.
do it for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think usually if you put yourself out, more reward comes.
That's what I call the 360 karma.
Is that
Right?
how the name came into being?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I do believe it perpetuates it. I help you, you help them,
Yeah.
they help someone else, and it just
so
keeps
on and so on and
perpetuating.
so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Paying it forward.
Paying it forward.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, and we want to develop a culture where women are helping women.
Because typically they haven't. I mean, being a baby boomer,
Right.
when I was in the workforce,
They were
the
competing.
women were competing, and the
Yeah,
men, even if they couldn't stand each other,
Right.
would get a project done,
Yeah.
and then go back to not liking each other after the project was
You
done.
know, I always say they have an old boys club.
Uh-huh.
We need the same thing, but no one wants to belong to the old girls
Yeah,
club.
right.
So I call it the bold girls club.
Okay, I like
that.
that.
We can deal with,
I
right?
like that. You should trademark that.
I know but it's so true. I mean, we do just like the guys. We have to be there for each other and help each other.
And not see ourselves as being competitive, more towards helping for the greater good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are a big voice in America. now.
Right, and
we,
people-
we can be a voting bloc in America. I
Oh
mean,
my
we have
gosh,
a lot of
so
power.
powerful. Yeah, I think actually that there's a sector of men that are feminists that are behind us, and there's a sector that don't want women rising to the top, obviously,
yeah.
because they know they're powerful,
Yes.
and they do bring something different to the table.
Yes.
Women bring something different to the table than men,
Yes.
and it's a good thing, and both are needed at the
Yes,
table.
I agree.
And if you look at, like I've said a million times, the Congress, the Senate, any industry, whether it be automotive or tech, there's way more men at the decision-making table. If we would balance that out by population, they'd be bringing a lot of great brains and ideas and concepts to the table in a different way, because women do present things in a different way.
This is true.
They reach across the aisle. They're more bigger picture. Most companies that have more women at the top are actually more successful.
successful.
So if
I think
research,
that's a secret still.
yeah, I mean, I know somebody that their entity is actually going to corporations around the country and showing them that research. So they're trying to educate companies on that fact that that's true. When there's more balance at the table of men and women at the top, those companies are more profitable.
I have read that.
Yeah, let's talk about exactly what your company does. So, Outward Media.
Yes.
Like for somebody who is a business owner or entrepreneur, tell them what you do to help grow businesses.
Okay, so we're database marketers. That's what we're commonly known as, and so we have a database.
People are
of-
glossing over right now.
Okay, which I'm going to amplify.
Yeah.
So basically, we have
like,
databases.
what is that?
I know.
Yeah.
We have databases on all the businesses in the United States and the consumers in the United
All
States.
the businesses
Yes.
and all the consumers.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Big database.
Yeah,
Big
that's,
data.
that's powerful. And you're one of the top ones in this niche, right?
Yes. There are three. That are
Only
the top.
three?
Yeah. That are
Wow.
more known.
Yeah.
So our core competency is helping companies find new business in the email channel. So
Right.
we build databases for companies, and then we actually do the campaign management for them, deliver the emails, do the
Wow.
reporting, and help them grow their revenue.
So, like, I know you mentioned you have some clients that are in like telecom industry. They come to you and they say, Paula, we want to get a message out to more consumers or businesses.
Either one.
And you help them with that database.
Yes.
Like you help them build that
We
database.
build a database,
Right.
and then we license it, and then we actually they do their own creative work. But then
So they
we
could say to
execute.
you, we want to reach people in Peoria or
Yes.
Los Angeles
Yes.
or wherever. And you send email blasts out to people in that demographic that they want, 40 plus.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Or types of
Interesting.
businesses. In particular, we have a strong small business database. And the small businesses convert an email better than, say, enterprise companies. Because the small businessman or woman
Right.
is wearing multiple hats.
Right.
And if the offer or the content that they're receiving is something that would help them with their business,
Right.
then they respond better than
Right.
trying to send an email to the CEO of Exxon. I mean,
Right.
it's not going to get to them.
Right. So small business owners are the most likely to respond,
Yes.
more so than the heads of major corporations or consumers?
No, on the consumer side, you can get good response as well, but the response rates on consumer side are a little bit lower than business side because they're inundated so much more with
Right.
Email.
Yeah, gee, I get no email marketing. No, just kidding.
Did you opt out of everything?
I send it all to one email.
then
Does
don't read
everyone
it.
do that?
No. Some people do, like merge it into a Gmail account. I think
You know
it
what?
is.
I think you're right, though. As a business owner myself, I think I would look more likely at something that would help grow my business than,
Yeah.
buying, new clothes or
Yeah,
tea
exactly.
or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ah, that makes sense.
They're always looking for things to help
Yeah.
them be better in their business.
What is it that you love about what you do?
When it works, I mean, it's just
Yeah.
so much fun. It's so much. We have one client over the last 4 years that we've taken their revenue from 28 million to 55 million last year.
Wow.
So in a 4-year period, we were able to get it that high, and that's exciting.
That's great. If you can get me to 54 million, I'm signing up
Okay.
today. Will it take a couple weeks?
No, years. But that's exciting.
That's
for us.
very
But
exciting.
at the same time, I'm very passionate about entrepreneurs. So
Yes.
like smaller companies that may not even have 5-10 employees, but if they
Mm-hmm.
have a good product and they've got a little bit of funding behind them, then
Yeah.
usually we'll discount for entrepreneurial companies to try to help them get to market faster.
I love
Because I have
that.
a passion for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I used to do cable television advertising, and I relate to what you're saying. It's so exciting to help a small business grow and to see them flourish and say, hey, my business grew 20% or whatever, and
they
know that you had
appreciate it.
something to do with it. Yeah,
And they even appreciate it maybe more.
I think more.
Because it's their money coming out of their pocket
Yeah.
versus a corporate budget.
Right. Well, and it's a big deal for a small company to grow itself. We know as entrepreneurs how hard it is
It
to
is
do a
hard.
new business,
Very hard.
Yeah, a very small percentage of them, continue on. But the good news is that those failed businesses, people usually learn from it. Once an entrepreneur, always an
Always an
entrepreneur. So you can just take those failures and just learn from them, and they'll probably go on and start the next business, and eventually they'll get one that's
Well,
a
you bring
success.
up a good point, because when I started the business in 1998, there was no email marketing.
Oh, wow.
So in order to stay alive, shall we
Yeah.
say, as a business, there's been like 3 morphing of the company.
oh,
So
yeah.
we started out in direct mail because that's all there was.
Yeah.
And then the internet media came on and email came on. So I try to stay at least 6 months to a year ahead of what's going on in the marketplace,
right.
if I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
And so we morphed into email in 2004 and started building the databases
Wow.
from there. So
And it is the businesses that keep growing with the times and changing
have
and
to.
shifting that make it.
Yes.
Look at the
Well,
ones
think of
that.
Kodak.
Yeah, Kodak's a perfect example. Yep,
Yeah.
if they don't adapt,
Who
they
would
die.
have thought that?
Who'd have thunk? Yeah, it doesn't matter how big or small, you have to adapt.
You have to, and you have to be innovating, and I think that's where having millennials also work for you help.
Yeah. Oh,
you know,
yeah. I have some millennials
Yes.
in my team, and I'm
They're on
grateful
it.
for them.
They're
That's
on
right.
the technology. They know what the next thing is. you know,
Yeah.
so they bring a lot to the table.
Oh, yeah. So outwardmedia.com is how
Yes.
people could reach out and get a consultation and see if it's a
Or-
good fit for them.
They can email me directly. It's paula@outwardmedia.com.
Okay, great. You might even get a date.
And I. Wait a minute! I thought this was a woman's channel.
Whatever.
That was a good one.
Paula, it's such a
yeah,
pleasure
it's such a
talking to
pleasure to be
you.
with you.
I
You're an
love your
awesome woman.
energy, and I love that you're helping grow businesses and just keep, mentoring other young women. I think you're amazing.
Thank you. So are you.
Thank you. All right, ladies, we will be back next week, and we have other amazing women that will be on. So don't forget to tune in next Wednesday at noon here on UBN. We will see you next week. Thanks so much. Hugs and happiness.